So if your girlfriend asks you to visit her family, does that mean you have to pay for all her family members when you go out for dinners? Well, it really depends of the situation. If you are considered rich or middle class, more likely they would not let you pay. They will just invite you and let you stay in their house for free. However, if your girlfriend and her families are unfortunate, they might not have the best food for your lifestyle or perhaps not having the best living situation for your lifestyle. So more likely you might suggest to buy the food that you want to eat. But if you're buying your own food and eating it in front of them and not sharing it with them, then they might consider you disrespectful, unpolite, or greedy. That's also considered a very disrespectful thing in our Filipino culture. And as part of our Filipino culture, if we have food, we're supposed to share it to our other families, and even sometimes or most of the time we share it to our neighbors because Filipinos love sharing. So yes, if they ever invite you to stay with them, especially inviting you to dinners, then yes, more likely they will expect you to pay for everybody because you are carrying dollars and they have peso and your dollars is 10 times more than their pesos. I mean, you can always say no to their offers, or you can always say no if they invite you for dinners because you already know that they're gonna expect you to pay for it. However, your girlfriend might think you are not qualified to be her husband because part of our culture, we expect the man to show us, especially our family, that you're capable of feeding us. Because we know as Filipinas, we know our values of being a wife and a girlfriend to the husband or to our husband. And more likely, if you're showing that you're not very generous with your money, often the family will say, no, don't marry him because he might be a red flag. So when I took my partner to the Philippines for the very first time, I had to explain to him that as part of our Filipino culture, food sharing is very important and family bonding is very important. And I also made him aware of the financial situation, which he understand. And of course, we were not spending our money like giving it to the neighbor, giving it to the people who wants to get drunk. Nothing like that. We were mostly spending our money towards food and towards family bonding. 5,000 USD a year is not enough for entirely year. This woman is not real. Well, I am being real, and in reality, most Filipinos or the average Filipinos that have average income don't even make 5,000 USD a year. And if you convert 5,000 USD to Philippine peso and $1 USD, convert that to 58 peso, depends on the currency, that would be around 290,000 pesos. Now, most Filipinos do not make that money in the Philippines. Average Filipinos with average income make at least 200 to 300 pesos a day. And even if they make 300 peso a day, work 7 days a week, they're still not going to make 5,000 USD a year. Now, when it comes to Filipinos or foreigners that have high maintenance lifestyle, 5,000 USD is obviously not enough. And yes, I agree with you. But when a foreigner or a Filipino will decide to live a very simple lifestyle, then yes, 5,000 USD is more than enough. And as for me, 5,000 USD might be not enough for a year because my lifestyle is different. But obviously not in a way that I would use that money towards fake friends or towards drinking or towards clubbing or towards wasting it. It's just that I prefer to have a comfortable lifestyle. But if I really have to live like a Filipino lifestyle, then yes, 5,000 is a lot of money to live for the entire year. So yes, I am for real. There is really no problem in sharing. However, Filipinos' family back home sometimes take advantage. Yes, you're absolutely correct. Sharing is amazing. However, sharing should be something that is coming from our heart, not from the form of manipulation and guilt tripping. And the problem with a lot of Filipinos' mentality, which is very toxic, a lot of Filipinos' mentality misinterpret the word sharing. A lot of Filipinos' mentality, which I'm not going to say just Filipinos because there are many other cultures out there that has similarities with Filipinos. So when it comes to sharing in Filipino culture, they believe that sharing is something that you have to do. It's supposed to be like it's your responsibility to share. And if you don't share, you are considered a bad person. You are considered greedy. You are considered non-generous. If you don't give anything or share something, 100% of the time they will gossip behind your back. And even if you're going to give something or a little, they are still going to criticize you, judge you, and gossip about you. And most of the time, they will say something like this: how dare is that person, or how dare our relatives? Why is she or he giving only a little when he has more or she has more money than us? You see, this is how many Filipinos think, and I'm not going to say that it's just Filipinos because, again, there are many other countries or culture out there that has similar situation. That is rude, even here too, to buy food and not share. Well, I don't know where you are, but yes, in the Filipino culture, it is considered rude when we have food or you have food and you're not sharing it. Because sharing is part of our Filipino culture, and we really appreciate when someone offers us food, or we also love it when we share our food. And hence why every time you're surrounded by a lot of Filipinos, you will always get offered food. And most especially when you go to a Filipino party, you will never get out from that place hungry. And you don't even need to bring food. They will provide all the food for you. And that is why for us, sharing and eating together is fun. It's kind of like a way of socializing each other. And that is why for me, every time I go to the Philippines, I don't mind sharing food, or I don't mind buying people's food, because I love it when I share food. I love it when people are eating food. It's like a very heartwarming knowing that, oh my God, the person is eating, and it's so nice when someone is eating. And especially if you're a foreigner, and when we Filipinos share our food to you, and if you appreciate our food, we would even love you because it makes us feel special knowing that you like our food. And when I came here in Canada for the very first time and I started working and I was surrounded by a lot of foreigners, or just being here in the culture, I was surprised that a lot of people do not really like sharing their food. It's almost like, no, this is our food. Why would we share to you? At first, I was offended by it, but then eventually I realized that, okay, it's kind of like they don't really have a culture because they don't really do this kind of stuff. But then again, I understand it, so I can't really change it. When you said neighbors, is it for the whole block? Because they throw a party for me every day. I was there. Is that right? Well, it really depends on her relationship to her neighbor. Some Filipinas are not close to her neighbor, but most of the time, she is usually close to her neighbors. And most of the time, when you're feeding the neighbors, often the neighbors will tell the other neighbors to come to that area because there is pakals. We call pakals in Bisaya, or in Tagalog, they would say, may pagkain doon. There's food over there and it's free. And when the neighbors come and they're hungry, what are you gonna do? You're not gonna just push them away. You're gonna invite them to eat, because that's kind of like part of the culture. You're supposed to invite someone who's not eating, especially when there's a lot of food in front of them or in front of you. And sometimes, or most of the time, when you leave Philippines, often there's a farewell party where you end up feeding the neighborhood or the entire neighborhood, or mainly just your family. And I used to do that before. Every time I leave Philippines to come back to Canada, often I would spend a lot of money to feed the neighborhood. But eventually I realized that no matter what I do, whether I feed them or not, they will always say bad things or gossip behind my back. So the last time I left Philippines, I did not feed the neighborhood at all. So I've decided to just feed my families and relatives and end up saving my money. And so far, I haven't heard any gossip or neighbor saying something, but to be honest, if they will, I don't really care. So yeah, if you want to be generous, you can feed the entire neighborhood and they're gonna like you. But if you just want to spend time with her family and her friends, then you can do that too. Other than that, it's all your decision. Do you buy alcohol? I feel sorry for the others. I don't drink alcohol. Maybe food, but not alcohol. Well, if you go to the Philippines or been to the Philippines, you will see a lot of Filipinos drinking on the side road, drinking on the side street, drinking in the neighborhood, drinking whenever they can find a drink. So drinking is one of the most favorite pastime to all palahobog and tambay in the Philippines. And that's one of the reasons why there are many single moms in the Philippines, because their partner became palahobog or became tambay. And if you end up with a palahobog man or a tambay man, often you're more likely to have a family issues at home. And a lot of Filipinas do not appreciate man who drinks constantly, which we call them palahubog, or lazy, which we call them tambay. I don't drink either, and I don't mind seeing people drinking. But most of the time, if you support palahubog or palaigit or tambay financially towards their alcohol, often the cause or the result after drinking is not good. Because most of the time, the palahubog will become drunk. Often they will become aggressive, and most of the time they will end up looking for someone to fight. So a lot of Filipinos in the Philippines, especially the palahubog, often they would drink and get drunk to confront someone and to start a fight. They do that on purpose so that when they're sober, they would have a reason saying like, oh, I did that because I was drunk, forgive me, so that makes it okay. And if you really want to be generous to the people in the Philippines, I think that buying them food is better than buying them a drink. Because there's a chance that if you buy them alcohol, more likely you would not fall asleep at night because they would start fighting, screaming, and do other things that prevents you from sleeping.